Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Oh Shoot. Today I'm joined by Jessica Whitaker. We are here to talk about some very essential things that you guys need to hear. You don't know you need to hear it yet, but you most definitely do. So she's going to talk about lots of great things. But first, Jessica, why don't you introduce yourself, say hi, and tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Thank you for having me, Cassidy. I'm so excited to be on the Oh Shoot podcast. My name's Jessica, and I am a photographer based in Seattle, in New York City. I also teach photography online. I've been teaching on YouTube since 2015, which is very
That's
crazy.
crazy.
I have a photography Facebook group called Build and Bloom, and that started, I believe, 2016 maybe. And that has stemmed into such a beautiful community. I now host and have hosted free photography workshops around the world for Build and Bloom. I host a monthly networking group for women in photography, and we were in 16 cities across the states and had 1,000 girls in the system. And every month we were talking about a topic that we're not taught in the American school system, such as what is a student loan, what are basics of personal finance, but then also, of course, topics about photography. It's just a great place for girls to meet and find common ground through photography, but build friendships in person. And then online, I also have the Build and Bloom photography podcast. So that's a bit about myself, and I'm so excited to get into this topic.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. I just feel like you've come from like a different, your origin story is so different than a lot of people's. So maybe if you wouldn't mind, just kind of get into like how you got into photography, kind of your whole like career timeline. Cause I think your timeline is very interesting. I think a lot of people might even feel inspired by it. So tell us where it started.
So it started for me back in middle school, and I had a little point and shoot camera of my mom's, and this was during the era of those hot pink lime green point and shoots that you could get from Costco.
Cute.
And everybody my age had one. They're the ones that are now currently trending.
Is it the
And I'm
Canon
trying
Power
to find.
Shots?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find my mom's because I'm like, oh my gosh, I would rather find the original one that I know we have somewhere than spend the money. But I think I'm gonna have to spend the money because I cannot find it.
Yeah.
So this is when everybody was using photography, posting to Facebook, like creating albums.
Yes.
And I got really into it by doing creative shoots with my family friends as two sisters, and they were always down to model for me. One of them did like makeup. We would just do like the most extreme stuff. So I had a whole bathroom that had a shower curtain lining and a normal shower curtain. We'd put the other shower curtain over, or we'd pull the shower curtain behind, have the white lining, and that would be like our seamless paver. And then I remember I had this specific type of lamp from IKEA. It's one with the adjustable arm. And I would turn the overhead light off in the bathroom and just use that artificial light. And we had so much fun. So as the months went on, as the years went on, more people were buying the cameras from Costco. Actually, my neighbor had been gifted by her parents a DSLR from Costco. And to me, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a camera that changes lenses. We were at a picnic once with our friends hanging out. She let me use it. And I was like, this is everything. It's so the bokeh. I mean, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
So I decided that I wanted to save up for my own camera. And I believe for Christmas one year, and this is very crazy that my family, they pulled together to give me not a DSLR, but it was like a Nikon Coolpix that was almost it almost is a hybrid between a point and shoot and a DSLR. It had a lens that zoomed in and out, and it was a little bit larger, but with that you could shoot in manual or program. So my family, I come from extremely poor background. So the fact that at the time, I think that my neighbor had like family friends who were rich neighbors, and I found out later that they were the ones who would buy our Christmas presents, even if it was like our big present, like $100. That was like the max, So, but they were so generous. They were family friends. But so people pulled together to get me this camera because at the time I'm in middle school and I didn't start working until I was 15 years old. So I was super excited about that. But then I saw the DSLR and I continued to use my little hybrid camera and would do creative shoots. And then I was like, I need to save up for my own Costco DSLR camera, and it was a Nikon D something, and I loved it. And at the time too, I had two women in my congregation that I was going to where they were already professional photographers, and they really poured into me. And I was in middle school. Like, it was
That's
so
cool.
encouraging that they could just overlooked it, like the other girls with the other cameras. But I guess I was showing a lot of interest, and my mom introduced me to them, that they were like, okay, even though you're like very little, we will teach you. And one of them showed me how to use Photoshop Elements, and that
Wow.
was life-changing
That's
to
cool.
me. And the other woman, she let me, my aunt was getting married, and she let me second shoot for her,
Wow.
which is so cute.
Yeah.
And just having that encouragement when I was little is something that I always want to be able to bring back in what I teach with photography. It's a huge reason why I do my Women in Photography networking group, why I do the free photography workshops in person, because for me, coming from like nothing, I know how like I have seen firsthand how with photography, it's not just like art therapy in an art form, but also it's a low barrier to entry for a business that once you learn the skill set, then you're able to change your legacy. I had one girl who she told me just through my YouTube channel that she was living in a garage with her mom. They had gotten out of a bad living situation. She was living in the garage from like renting it out. And then because of just the free accessible resources I had on YouTube, they were actually able to get an apartment because she was able to use that money, just getting a little bit more money, or maybe paying off your student loans or whatever it is. So I think that's what really, if I looked at it from a psychological lens, why I love doing what I do. And that's my origin story. And I always had YouTube. I used it as an outlet I went to design school in New York, and I had just gotten done with 2.5 years of design school in Seattle at a trade school in high school. So I had a gap year here where I was going to community college, but I didn't have an artistic outlet like I had at trade school or when I moved the next year to design school. So I started YouTube, and I had already been watching some of my peers, and I noticed like a pattern recognition about how they were making their YouTube videos go viral, what the formula was. And I had actually already done that for a handful of my friends, and the videos would consistently get that I essentially produced for them, right? Would get at least 1 million views. So I was like, I want to do this now for myself. I built up the courage after helping them to be like, okay, I'm gonna put myself on camera. And then one day, my friend, he was wanting to learn about photography. He's like, hey, can I come along for one of your creative shoots? It's like, yes, if you can find the model and if you can actually film it, I think that could be really interesting for YouTube. So we filmed it with my whatever version of the iPhone. It was probably like iPhone 8. And I continued to film on my iPhone for so long. I'm all about DIY. And now it's almost to a fault. And I now need to start learning like what to invest in. And I have that mindset blocks. And because I think how I grew up, just like poor and like, okay, me getting this light is not a necessity, whatever. But now I'm like, oh, I'm seeing so many people with, how do they make it high quality when they record a podcast or whatever? So I'm learning all of that. And I was reluctant to learn because I'm just like so all about YouTube, right? But as new social media platforms come out, I have to adapt. And I finally started to do behind the scenes just for instance, like literally last month, I had my friend film in vertical for a whole photo shoot. I'd never done that before, only horizontal for YouTube. I was like, okay, I'm entering the 20th century at least. So for me, that's a bit about my origin story. And I created the Build and Bloom group because I was a part of a ton of photography Facebook groups that were just you guys know the kind, bully central. It's where the bullies gather for their conference every year. And I was like, okay, there's obviously a gap and a need for something that is beginner friendly and also just so much more chill because it's not that serious. We're not doing brain surgery right here. So that's how I created Build and Bloom. And that's how it took off as well because I leveraged my YouTube audience to bring them to Build and Bloom. And then it created like this whole amazing little like online space for me.
Yeah.
So that's a bit about myself and how I got started.
Cool. That's so cool. I have like so many questions for you based on that. I promise we'll like get to the actual topic in a minute.
You're good.
One question first. I'm sure everyone's wondering, what is this YouTube template that you discovered? Like, what's the actual like format? Does it still work?
No, it doesn't still work. But so basically what I learned was I was watching these videos that were from other girls like Aspen Ovard OG, Alicia Marie OG. So I found all these girls and I was just watching them because I was also their age. And I saw that they would use very saturated. I wasn't really following their visual template, but a different, like more of their strategy for marketing. So I saw that all of their colors were super saturated, that they would have like the fast clips, it would be a montage, and then they'd have something that would be like 3 ways to do X. So with my friend, she wanted to start a YouTube. So I was like, okay, we have to do first, like, look at what's trending. It's like, let's say it's like 2012, for example. Would it be? Yeah, I guess it would be probably 2012, 2011, where it's like at least here in the Seattle area, it's like the hipster era. It's like Tumblr core. We all want the super, like, we want like the braids were really popular, like the amber filler up, kind of those really fluffy braids that are like the fishtail. So I was like, okay, let's do a tutorial of 3 boho hairstyles. And I knew how to format it, and cut it, and then how to make the title and the description actually get like the views, because I would just follow what the other girls were doing. But I also, for myself, I would start with hair tutorials and with my friends, because those were highly searchable at the time because there weren't a ton created by other girls. So besides my peers, right? So I had really short hair. I was growing out from a pixie cut, and the sock bun was very trendy back then. So I had learned how to do like my own sock bun with hair that was like to my chin. And so I did a tutorial on that and I knew how to splice it. But how I got people to come over was I also looked at what was actually trending, like with all those girls, and I picked a niche. So the niche that, like, aesthetic niche, is that I picked this very preppy Lily Pulitzer, very colorful look that maybe like a third of the girls were doing. And that's something that I liked and identified with. But living in Seattle, we have like outdoor stores and like Urban Outfitters. We don't have like the super preppy New England Southern stuff. But I knew I would search on Twitter, like monogram. I would search all these keywords. And then on Twitter, I would just follow like everybody who had like monogram that they would tweet about or whatever. Like, and then I just made my profile itself before I started following people super preppy, like what I like, the idealized version of what I would love to dress like. But I knew also that there was obviously like it was a popular aesthetic. And since I didn't really lean into the super hipster kind of thing, I mean, I still dress like that, I think, because that's what everyone dressed like in this area. But that's how I knew that you have to stay in one like aesthetic and then just find people who follow that same thing. So that's YouTube is very, very different now. But back in the day, you could seriously just title it like, for me, the first photography video I ever did that got about 1 million views, and it was 10 posing tips other photographers won't tell you. And something about having the number plus whatever tip or something plus another like kind of catchy thing, it would get views. And it was very interesting. But I also think because I was like one of like a few people teaching online, that's what also helped, because it wasn't as saturated. But the thing is, I also don't think that I think that you can still start YouTube or Instagram or whatever, even if you feel like it's saturated, but you have to know like your personal artistic voice and like your branding and everything. So I wish YouTube was still like that, because those are amazing days.
It's funny because I did hair tutorials on YouTube in
Really?
I would say, I think it was 2011 to 2014, 2015. Like I was like, do you remember the account like Cute Girls Hairstyles?
Yes.
I was really into like their account and stuff. But yeah, like it was just, YouTube was a different world back then. And I do think people still use YouTube like now, but I think it's used in a different way. And I almost think YouTube now is more like, I feel like YouTube is how people supplement like their social media presence, but I don't feel like now it's like the main social media presence for a lot of people. A lot of like my favorite YouTubers are people that I started following on like Instagram or TikTok and then found out that they do YouTube, and I watch their stuff because it's kind of like, for me, that's like a step 2 or step 3 in being someone's like follower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely changed.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into some of our questions. Let's get into the meat of the episode. So for this episode, we are talking about unplugging from your phone, which I might need to take notes for this episode because I might be guilty. Like, I don't think I'm that bad, but I do think I definitely could improve. So we're going to talk about this, how you've implemented different things to help you thrive. So first question, why do we feel like unproductive or burnout or discouraged or even like overstimulated when we're using or posting to social media? Kind of like expand on this for me.
Yes. Okay. So the disclaimer here is with this whole topic is that for me, I'm going to be talking about like social media boundaries, but it ebbs and flows for me. Whenever I feel like there'll be a stretch of time, maybe for a year, that was super strict and I followed like all the boundaries, even like the most extreme one that you guys are going to hear about. And so many of you are going to be like, okay, absolutely not. I can't handle that. And then now I'm kind of in a little medium, like a happy middle place. But a couple months ago, when my depression was really bad, I was doing the opposite of what I'm saying. So it's going to ebb and flow, and you have to just take it and apply it to your life. And I tried to be pretty inclusive with different ways that different people can. Also, a big thing is that it's going to even depend on what your own schedule is like. I didn't do photography full time till 2017. So the only time I would have to be on my phone was like the bathroom break or lunch break at work or late at night. So it's going to look different from everyone. This is like an idealized version, but I did try to keep it pretty like inclusive in that way. So, okay, here's the thing. We all have two things in our business. It's not camera gear. It's not equipment. It's not like a social media presence. Well, we do have that, but the thing that everybody has access to in our business is time and money. But when you don't have money to put into your business, you have to make time. But how do you make that time when you feel like you're spread so thin, whether it's because you do photography full time or you do it part time or you do it on the weekends from some extra cash? How are you able to be productive with the time that you do have to post? So the first question is like, why do we feel unproductive? So to answer your question about why we feel unproductive is a couple of different reasons. So it might be because there's no clear. Actually, you know what? I know it is. I know this is it for most of us. There's no clear line between personal use and business use when it comes to our social media. Personal versus professional. It all bleeds into one. So the burnout comes in because most likely you are using social media during the day. We're scrolling, we're doom scrolling, we're always on your phone, which I don't mean to sound like a boomer, like they're always on their phone. Okay,
no,
chill.
But, like,
that's
really,
just part of
we are.
It's just part of the culture. It's not like a bad thing to be on your phone when you're standing in line at Starbucks. What, you expect me to just like stare into space and get lost in my thoughts? No, that's a bad place for me to be. So I'm not saying it in a disciplinary like way, any of this stuff, but burnout is most likely because we're using social media during the day. We're scrolling and subconsciously comparing. Unless you have like incredible mental health, then okay, work. But most of us, we're subconsciously comparing ourselves against other people's lives. And we've all heard that before. Someone going on vacation and doing X, Y, and Z. Someone's in a relationship you wish you were. Someone has this clothes or this or whatever it is. They just bought a house. There's so many different points that we can compare ourselves against others. But another added layer for us as photographers, for us as artists, is we compare ourselves to where other people are at in their business, in their skill set. They're taking photos in this one location. They're going to Paris and taking photos. You don't know actually if that's a styled shoot they're going to. You just saw one photo of a couple in a, cute style image in front of the Eiffel Tower. We don't know the context, but when we're just scrolling and we're consuming, that's that extra layer of, oh, they just upgraded their gear to mirrorless and I really want to do that, but I have to save. And we don't know if that person had to take the time to save. They probably also saved for that mirrorless upgrade, but we're just seeing that instant highlight reel. So after a whole day of doing this, then you get home from your shoot, or you get home from your job or from school, and now it's time for you to post and interact with people in your comments and answer DMs. And it's so exhausting. And then you're like, okay, I'm just going to post tomorrow. Or, okay, I know I have to reply to comments, but I'll just do that a little bit later. And then it doesn't happen. So that's where like the consistency also falls through. And kudos for anybody who schedules their posts at least, but we all experience that, where a lot of the times at the end of a long day, the last thing we want to do is go through and do all of these important steps for the engagement of Instagram. So when it comes time to post and to interact with it for your business, you just feel totally drained, super depleted, because you've been comparing yourself all day long. And the way that you can kind of shift your mindset, and it's going to take time to do this, but you need to start viewing Instagram as a tool for your business. As a business owner, Instagram no longer is personal. You have to get into this mindset, right? That's why people do create Finstas. They do create their private Instagram account. But for me, I have one account, my business account, because if I create a Finsta, if I create a personal account, even if it's private, I'm still going to be there scrolling and comparing. Mm-hmm. So the moment that you can realize, okay, as a business owner, I have to step into social media. When I log into social media, this is a tool. And that's also a little side note, is that can help you kind of when it comes to the imposter syndrome, or even being like, oh, am I going to look silly if I get in front of the camera and talk on my stories? Are my friends going to judge me? No, this is a tool for your business. It's just what you have to do. So another reason why you feel burnt out or unproductive is because most of us are overstimulated with being in work mode. Mm-hmm. Because for those of us who do photography full-time or even part-time, feels like a full-time job, right? We are always, from the moment that we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, you're answering emails at 11 o'clock at night when you know you shouldn't be. You're opening Instagram and checking your phone the first thing that you wake up in the morning, which none of these things are bad themselves, but it's always we're stacking everything together where we're so overstimulated. Mm-hmm. So for me, for example, this would happen specifically over COVID. I would listen to a business podcast while getting ready for my workday. And I would feel, oh my gosh, this is going to inspire me. It's going to give me, I loved the Amy Porterfield podcast during COVID. She had really helpful, actionable steps. But I would feel, oh, wait, there's a little too many steps and I haven't even logged into my email. But now I have added this other thing on my plate that, okay, now I have to actually, she's talking about launching this course. Okay, launch a course now. I'm planning that. Okay, today the priority is just to edit or whatever it might be. I'd go on walks that are supposed to be breaks for my business. And I'd be listening to whatever, even if it's self-help, motivational business podcast. I'm not letting my mind take an actual break because I'm trying to improve myself or my business. And I also always felt like I had to be productive whenever I would listen like an audiobook or read something, or when I would be in the car. I felt like, okay, there's all this content out there to help me, so I have to consume it. I have to be productive. I can't let myself just chill, because these things that I'm missing out on listening to, what I thought was missing out on listening to, they're going to add to my skill set. So, and I have to be the best. So I have to listen and learn all the time. But the thing is, like, I still love a self-help book and self-motivational stuff, but I just take it in little pockets. So for example, the first thing that I would do when I was trying to like kind of step away from this mindset for myself is I swapped business podcasts for audiobooks. And at first it was still like self-help audiobooks, but that would be more about, at least it wouldn't be about business per se, but I would interpret
Right.
it into business.
Mm-hmm.
So I used the Libby library app, which in the United
Yes.
States, I love it.
It's so
So
good.
it's amazing. And I didn't know it had audiobooks on it. I thought it was just Kindle books.
Okay.
So I was going crazy with a Libby. And then I was still listening. Also, something about me, and I think this is for a lot of artists, it just kind of helps me to be able to focus if I have something my ears are focusing on when I'm also editing. I don't know what it is,
Okay.
but I couldn't just be alone with my thoughts, of course. So I loved that little swap, was super, super helpful for me. So that's one step that helped me separate my business from my personal life. And then as I discovered more on Libby and as I just looked up people on YouTube or on TikTok who read books, it's like, okay, maybe I should listen to a fiction book instead. And it just has nothing to do with business. And it's like this slowly trickled into that, and created more boundaries for myself, because the most productive thing that you can do for yourself is letting go of your cell phone, which seems counterintuitive to the fact that we need to post, but you can actually do even better if you have stricter boundaries, because you're going to be able to fully utilize Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook ads, MySpace, whatever it is, to the full potential. And you're going to be able to treat it like a tool, like it is to be used and not just personal use with peers.
Yeah. I feel like with your phone, like you can't mentally be fully working if part of your brain is watching your notifications pop up on your phone. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it's the whole thing about being overstimulated has never hit more to me than ever before, because like I don't like literally I cannot type out an email while listening to a podcast. I literally have to hit pause on a podcast to type an email, because otherwise
same.
like my brain is listening, but I need to type words. And so I end up like typing what the podcast is saying, which is like, why am I transcribing for them right now? This is not the time or place. And I found that working with lo-fi music is like my go-to. Like I need to be so understimulated to the point where I feel like I'm like floating in outer space without a care in the world. And that's how I'm going to get my work done. So I think you make a good point about just like creating the environment that works best for you. And I think the environment that's going to work best for everyone, creativity wise, is not having your phone on you. Like truly, I would love to like know what people think the benefits are to having your phone on you 24/7, because I don't feel like there's a ton. I really don't. So continue. That's my little side.
No,
side
100%. And I discovered lo-fi, and there's one like lo-fi girl on YouTube that just plays 24/7.
Yeah.
And that's a good reminder for me to actually utilize it more, because I found myself being like, exit out and listen to a business podcast. The opposite that I should be doing with the lo-fi. So I definitely should start doing that. Should start incorporating the lo-fi again. That's really good advice.
The only thing worse than taking too many photos while you're shooting is getting home and then having to edit all of them. Here are some ways to speed up your editing workflow without losing any quality in your work. Today, I want to introduce Aftershoot Edits 2.0. You can experience the most consistent edits straight out of Aftershoot. One of my favorite things about Aftershoot is their upgraded white balance and exposure AI models. Even if your lighting varies during your session and you have a lot of drastic changes, Aftershoot's able to instantly fix any blown out highlights, murky shadows, and overall, this feature allows you to have balanced photos no matter what your lighting conditions were. Another way to speed up your editing workflow is by using AI masking in Aftershoot Edits 2.0. This feature allows you to selectively edit your images through masking. With AI masking, Aftershoot can automatically select your subjects and adjust them to really make them pop in your image. Another great way to save time while you're editing is to use Aftershoot's advanced cropping and straightening. This tool allows you to customize and select any aspect ratio, and it even automatically crops in your photos so that the focus is more on your subject. It also can automatically straighten your photo, which is going to save you so much time in the long run. Say goodbye to spending way too much time editing your photos and use Aftershoot Edits 2.0. Aftershoot has an exclusive offer for all Shoot listeners, so go to the link in the description of this episode to find out more. Thank you guys so much for watching, and now back to the show.
Okay, so I really like where this conversation is going about your phone and stuff. Do you have any ways or tips that people can like not be using their cell phone, but also not feel like their business is going to fail without having their cell phone like on them 24/7? Like, just kind of give me some tips and tricks for that.
100%. The main thing that everybody hears you teach, you even taught it in the podcast, is you have to, sorry.
You're good.
You have to schedule everything out and plan ahead of time. How you talked about in the podcast, like with Instagram and TikTok, that you'll have, let's say, like 3 buckets of content, like 3 different types, like a behind the scenes, and then a talking head, which is like you giving a tip, and then a voiceover or trending audio. So what I do is I just map all that out in Google Sheets, and I use a random template that Google Sheets provides that's under like the marketing plan one, and I just change it all to say the different buckets of content, and then I will have everything prepared. Like I'll usually do Monday. I don't know if this is the most productive day to even do it because I'm sure I have emails to answer, but Monday will be like my day of creating content for my photography business itself and my education, but most of what I do is to get photography clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have that all planned out, and then I don't use the Instagram scheduler in the app. I just don't find that it works very well for me. I don't know what it is, but then I know that, okay, at 7 p.m., I'll set myself an alarm for 7 p.m. Okay, everything is prepared. I can check the doc. I have it already preloaded into my phone with the captions so that when 7 p.m. comes, I know that that's my time of day that I'm going to post, and then I'm going to interact and answer comments. And then I also might do that earlier in the day, like around lunchtime, or even if it's early in the morning. But I give myself dedicated time where I'm actually going to go in and interact. And so during that limited time, I know that I need to get everything done. I need to go through DMs, answer inquiries, respond to comments, post stories. And sometimes like I just don't even do that, and I'll just have a day, like a couple day period where I just post and then I ghost, basically, because that's all I can mentally do. But that's better than not posting at all, right? I just can't interact for whatever reason. So having everything pre-scheduled and drafted is very important, and it's very overwhelming at first, but the biggest thing to remember is the reality is you're watching that 15-second or that minute video like 30 times. You're editing it, you're overthinking it. The consumer on the other end is only watching it for 15 seconds or 60 seconds. You don't have to make it perfect. It's free content as well, as something I have to remind myself, even for YouTube videos. Otherwise, I'll get way too perfectionist, and I'm like, okay, we have to do this angle. I'm like, this is free content on YouTube. It just has to be great, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So done is better than perfect, and creating everything, scheduling it, and just getting it up. And that's like a pattern you have to start learning and like being able to implement. But that will help you when you're actually on the phone. It will help you be able to just log in and be very intentional with your time. And of course, you can also use the Instagram scheduler, but I don't know what it is, but for me, it just drops the engagement. But also then if I schedule everything, I'm never going to be on Instagram. And it still is important for me to respond to questions, comments, inquiries, and things like that.
Right.
So, but it does shift everything as, oh, this is a tool for my business. I'm not just opening it and scrolling and doom scrolling. You're able to become a lot more intentional with your time on the app. And you might even find that you start using it naturally less and less. That kind of is what eventually happens, because it becomes a habit just to go on, interact, and use it. One thing I guess, so I do have a couple of ways that go from easy to extreme to kind of untether yourself from the phone. The last most extreme one is to get a work phone, and I'll go through the other ones, of course, but I do want to talk about the fact that I do have a work phone. It's an old iPhone that I own. You know, nowadays you have to you rent it basically from the carrier. So it's an old iPhone. And I had used it for a while with Wi-Fi, just with my Instagram account and everything, so that I would have Instagram off of my main phone. And then I was like, well, how much does it cost to add a phone line? I've just always Venmoed my mom for my phone bill, right? I've never like set it up. So she's like, oh, it costs like $10 extra on like our plan if you want to add it. I was like, okay, work, because I can't have you have to have an Apple ID to be able to use the phone, and you can't have an Apple ID without a cell phone number. So that gets you the cell phone number. So once I started using a separate work phone, truly, where I would leave that phone at home for the day, I would just bring it with me if I have a shoot and I'm using clients to communicate with, or if I know like, okay, I'm going on vacation, I'm going to bring my separate phone. So because otherwise I'll download Instagram and be scrolling and comparing on vacation, So that's the most extreme example, but just to give you a little look into where I'm at currently is hiding that phone during the day so that I don't just habitually reach for it and open it up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I did something similar where I have an old phone. Like I upgraded my phone, just kept my old phone. And the intention was to use it for work, but I'll be real, like I don't really use it that much. I also don't think, I don't know. I definitely have ways to improve, but I don't think I'm like the most like on my phone person that exists out there. But I will say it is so nice to have a phone that I could be like, okay, this is my content phone. I'm going to like go to a wedding or whatever, and I'm going to record like 20 clips on there. And then I know like, okay, if I'm going to like create a video or whatever, all of my clips, all my stuff is in one place. Whereas my personal phone has all of my like photos of my dog and like cute little things I'm seeing on my walk and like screenshots of who knows what. Like, I feel like just having all of my stuff on one work phone, even content wise, it makes it so much easier to create content. Like, you know, people get stuck in that content creation phase where it's like, I don't know what to post. I like have too much content. I don't have enough content. It's so nice to have it all in one place rather than trying to scroll through your camera roll and be like, do I have this video? Where is this video? I don't know where it is. So I think that's another huge benefit too to having a work phone. It's just that like separation of actual content too.
100%. And it's so funny you mentioned that because it's only within the last month I'm like, I should just be recording everything for work on this work phone because I'm already bringing it with me to a shoot. It's going to be easier to organize it. And then I don't have to airdrop and do all of that. So that's a huge benefit to having the separate work phone. And especially like I'll scroll through it and I'll just get distracted when I'm trying to find something. Oh, wait, there's this photo or there's this instead.
Yeah.
So I love that you do that.
I find that sometimes too, like when I go to post, this is like a big thing. I'll be like, oh, I'm going to go on Instagram to post. I open Instagram, immediately forget what I was there to do.
100%.
Like I have the post prepped and ready and I'm like, oh, my friend just had a baby. Oh, this celebrity was seen at this event. And I'm just like, oh, there's so much to see. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been on my phone for 30 minutes. I haven't even posted. Like it's really hard. Even just like that initial seeing your feed can sometimes lead to just like endless scrolling. So I like the idea of having like a timer set or something to be like, okay, now's the time. You're going to get 30 minutes, post, interact, and then get out of there.
Yes. And it's hard at first because you are going to see all of those posts and the apps are designed to make you stay on them, you know?
Right.
But over time, as you exercise that muscle, it will become easier. And I have 6 tips on how you can untether yourself from your phone. And one of them, you're going to be like, ooh, wait, you guys listening, okay, that can actually solve that problem of the feed distraction.
Yes, we're ready. I've got my notes app open. I'm ready to go.
Okay, work. Okay. So I'm going to start from easy to extreme. And you guys already know the extreme is getting the separate work phone. So number 1 is turn off notifications for social media. 50-50 probably of listeners have them off or they have them on. But for those who have social media notifications on, turn them off honestly turn off any notifications that you don't need. I will get pop-up notifications for Instacart or for Uber or whatever it is. And I have to remind myself, oh, I didn't even know this had notifications. I'm not ordering any groceries. I should turn off because it's distracting me and it's bringing me to my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Especially what you were saying earlier about like the notifications just distracting you in general, especially Instagram, where that's giving you the most notifications when anyone does anything with your account. So definitely turn off notifications for social media. The second one is to delete any apps from your phone that you can access and use on your computer. So for example, if you have Instagram threads, or if for whatever reason you're still using X, Twitter, right? This is maybe a better example for back in the day. Pinterest as well on your phone. If you have Facebook on your phone, those are all apps that are beautifully designed for desktop. And that if you have the luxury of having access to your laptop, to your desktop during the day, this is where the caveat comes in. For me, the only time I had to post at the time on Twitter or post to Pinterest was on my lunch break. I didn't have my computer with me, right? But any apps that you're finding yourself, once you've done the rotation, once you've done the rounds of Instagram and TikTok and whatever else, then you go randomly to Twitter, even though you have it, the app literally still says Twitter on your phone. It's not even X now. You haven't logged into it since high school, but you just make the rounds. You go into Pinterest and you're just endlessly scrolling, like not really using it with intention. That also, those other apps contribute to the burnout that you might even feel on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, using those websites, using the platforms on your desktop is a great way to start learning or like getting yourself familiar with, okay, this is a tool for my business. So when I'm working on my business, I'm going to be on Facebook. For me, I have a Facebook group. So when I'm ready to go on the group and answer things, and I can have like not my full attention, but half my attention, whatever it is, I just have it open on my computer whenever I'm working. Even if those work hours look kind of crazy sometimes, if they're early or late. But either way, I'm not on Facebook on my phone scrolling. Or the thing is, like, if I see a post that I want to comment on, and what am I going to do? I usually screenshot it. I never do anything with that screenshot. You know, I'm trying to look it up for later, but it never happens. So I'm more productive when I'm able to use those types of social media platforms on my desktop, and you will be too. Especially, it's just making when you're just standing in line at the coffee shop and it's kind of long. Okay, I already went through Instagram. Let me dust off the old Pinterest app on the phone.
Yeah, totally. That's so funny. That's a good one.
So the next one is a step further. Delete Instagram or whatever app it is. So I'm going to use Instagram as the example. Delete Instagram from your home screen and your search. So this is for iOS users, for iPhone users. There's going to be similar for Google or Android. So what this does is, in order for you to get into Instagram, it's still on the phone, but it's away from the home screen and you can't search it. So that in order to log in or to get on the app, you actually have to go into the App Store, type it, and open it up there. So you're jumping through a lot of hoops. So by the time that if you get to that point of opening up Instagram through the App Store, you know that you're logging in with intention, or you're making the decision like, I am going to just chill and scroll on my phone. It's not so impulsive.
Mm-hmm. And if you're only posting, like opening it to post, which should really be the goal, like going to the App Store and searching it is that's not too big of an ask because you're doing it once a day. But if you're trying 100%. To get into the app like 15 times a day, that's when it becomes annoying. And that's when you start to be like, okay, I like it. I like it.
Yes, it helps like break the habit. Mm-hmm. So if you want to know how to do this, if you have an iPhone, you go into your settings and then you go into Siri and search. Then you scroll down to your app. It's going to have a list of all the apps on your phone within the Siri and search tab. Mm-hmm. And you're going to toggle off all of the apps for under on home screen. So you're going to see like your mail app, you're going to see your Instagram, whatever. And if you toggle it off, it's going to be removed from your home screen, but the app still lives on your phone. And it's also going to remove it from whenever you tug down on your phone to search something. you have those 4 frequently used apps or whatever it might be. Instagram, I guarantee, is one of them, right? And you impulsively then click Instagram when you meant to search for something else, right? So it takes away that impulse. So again, settings, Siri, and search. Then you're going to scroll down to your app and toggle them off, or toggle off all under on home screen. Once you get into Siri and search, scrolling to your app, it's going to make a lot more sense so that you can still access the app, but you have to open it via the app store.
Okay.
So the next one is turning off. Well, I should preface by saying this is not realistic for some people, like especially if you're a parent, but turn off text message notifications during the morning and the evening. And I'll talk about that more when I speak on routine. For me, I would even just get riled up in a way. Like I'd be texting my friends after work and, we talk about something like so silly. Like we talk about boys or whatever. And we're like joking, you get like so riled up and like you're having so much fun, you get hyper, whatever. And it's like, oh frick, okay, by the end of it, now I can't go to sleep and I have a shoot tomorrow, but I'm so distracted by all the messages coming in. Or maybe it's the other end of the spectrum of like your client is texting you, which your client shouldn't be texting you, but that's a different topic for a different time. But like somebody's trying to get access to you, or if it's an email, whatever it is, and it's 10 o'clock at night, now you're getting riled up because, oh my gosh, like it's a difficult client situation. I didn't expect this. Your heart drops. They're like, I hate the edits. I'm reporting to the business bureau. Oh no, you can eliminate that. That's an extreme example, but we all know that feeling, right? We can eliminate that by turning off those text message notifications when we're getting our day started, before we log in, and at the end of the day. And for some of us, it's not realistic. Like I said, if you're a parent and you have like a teenager, let's say, you need to have your text messages on just in case, whatever it might be. But that also, if you really start to use your work phone where you are somebody who your clients text you, the work phone is great because you can turn those notifications off, but honestly, with the work phone, just put it into airplane mode when you're not using it, right? So it's just about kind of setting boundaries for yourself so that you can wind down for the night, rather than getting riled up for whatever. Even in a good way, it's like fun to talk to your friends, but I have to set a boundary for myself that's like past 9 o'clock, I cannot FaceTime, because I'll be on FaceTime for too long and I'll get like so excited about whatever, we'll be planning a trip to Greenland that like never happens, but it's so fun. And then I can't sleep as soundly, whatever it is. Right. So that is, okay. My next one is to remove email from your phone, or at least to remove one email inbox, such as like your personal. For me, it'd actually be my business and I would keep my personal. Remove it from the inbox so that if you don't need access to it during the day, all day. Kind of goes back to, instead of having Pinterest, for example, on your phone, having it on the desktop computer. So when you're logging into Pinterest, you're actually posting, you're not scrolling. When you're on your email on your computer, that's most likely you have the intention to answer the emails, but the email is part of the rounds that we make when we're standing in line at a coffee shop. Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Twitter, now I'm going to check my email. And even if you're checking, we all have like 4 different email accounts on our phone. Even if you just eliminate like 3, that's 3 less things that you're checking, because it does add up, and 3 less things like that you're consuming at a time. It does, just trust me, it's the psychology of it, you guys. Right. So this is where the caveat of, if you need to have access to your email because you don't do photography full time, then you need to have that email on your phone. But for me, that is something that has really helped me. I now have email on my phone, but it's on my work phone. And I just have my personal email on my regular phone because, maybe I'll need a verification email, whatever it might be. But the point is to not be overstimulated like 24/7. Or to be checking your phone late at night, checking your emails and seeing an inquiry come in. Like, it's not always a negative thing that you're experiencing, but it's like these like highs, extreme. What's like the medical term or whatever? Extreme.
It's like a peak or something. I feel like it's just like the principle of just protecting your like headspace too. Like when it's like, going on a walk and not choosing to not listen to a business podcast. You're just protecting your mental space. And when you have like email notifications on, it allows you to, even while you're at like, on a date at dinner, like for me, like sitting down with Charlie and having dinner, like if I get an email notification about work, I'm most likely going to read it and it's going to take my head there, even for a split second.
Totally.
And like, I feel like sometimes things happen where then I'm thinking about it for like the next couple of hours if it's something big that happened. So
100%.
It's tricky. I lean towards being the person that does have my notifications on because I like to know when things happen. I don't necessarily respond right away. I know I'm not going to respond right away, but I like to know right when things happen in case there is something that I do need to like quickly respond to. Because I am like, if I didn't do that, I would be the person who would literally only answer emails once a week, which would probably make some people very upset, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's so hard as artists. I feel like we operate in like extremes where, for me, when I cannot schedule the post on Instagram because I will literally not be on the app, period. So it's a way for me to actually get on the app. I mean, I even miss like with acquaintances, I'll miss like these milestones where it's like somebody like announces that they're pregnant, but it was from 3 months ago. And I'm like, oh, frick, I like didn't realize that because I'm just not on social media. So it comes with its detriments, but honestly, it's given me more benefits with my mental health, especially if you struggle with anxiety, depression, whatever it might be. Another tip, I'm surprised I actually don't have it written in here. Another tip that I have would be to mute Instagram accounts, whether it's the in-feed posts or the stories. The stories are the ones for me that before I would just follow like this isn't going to work for me now because I follow like 2,000 people. But before, if I would be following like 100 people, 300, I would literally take the time when my comparison was so bad, my self-esteem was so low. This was only a couple of years ago, like COVID vibes. I went through and I just muted everybody, and it had nothing to do with them, but everything to do with when I go on Instagram, I just need to be there to post and be intentional. And when I see stories and I see what everyone's doing, especially during COVID, it's easy to be somebody makes a different choice than you, and then you get upset, whatever it might be. That's another thing is if you still want to be following these inspirational accounts or another photographer or whatever, you can just mute them so that when you want to go to their account to interact as well, you aren't going to get distracted by like somebody else's story. So what I would do is I would go to my profile and I'd click my following, and I would just go through, and that's how I would watch stories. Again, this is very extra to do, but it's what I had to do for my own mental space. And then I would just see everybody's account laid out with their profile photo, and the profile photo would be lit up if they had a story. So that's how I'd watch stuff. And it really worked for me, but it's not practical anymore because there's like 2 grand people that I'm following. But that's another easy way to combat comparison is to mute accounts. And I feel like that's very common advice as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really good advice. I think having just like the permission, hearing someone be like, yeah, you can mute someone. Like
100%.
I think that's good. So quickly just here as we wrap up, I wanted to ask you like if you implement any routine or anything to help you keep business and personal social media separate. Like what does that look like? Because I know you mentioned it briefly earlier.
Yes. So with routine, it's going to ebb and flow, right? Depends on what stage you're at in your life, where you are mentally. But routine is really key for balance and super important to start implementing because it ensures that lines are not getting blurred with your social media for personal and professional use, even if those lines are blurred subconsciously. So for me, some days my workday looks like ending my workday cleaning off my desk completely, and then I go to a workout class. And usually the main separation for me at night is to go to an Orange Theory class. But the act of cleaning off my desk completely, other than like my laptop charging and like my headphones, but usually I'll have random camera gear, I'll have SD cards, I'll have like a mess of even like my mail on it. It gives my body a physical sense of like shutting down for the day. And I am grateful to, at this stage in my life, I actually have a room in my house that's a home office, which I'm very lucky about because I can just shut the door. But I do love that when I do clean it, I can open the door and it's clean. I'm not going into chaos. But this can look like also when I lived in a college dorm, when I lived in an apartment, when I lived in my childhood bedroom, anybody can clean off their desk for that physical separation. Then I'll just change it to my work clothes, grab the water bottle. I'm going to go to my class, and then that is my separation for the day. And I don't answer emails after that. I don't look at my work phone. If the easiest way that you could do a routine is it can be as simple as turning off your computer and taking a 5-minute hot shower to deregulate your body. Whenever you feel stress, anything, take a hot shower and it's going to help reset your nervous system. So at this point in the evening routine, you're already disconnected from your phone. So now you have to take physical action to separate so at this point in your evening routine, you are already totally disconnected from your phone, but now you have to take physical action with your body to separate out your day. So I talked earlier about how you can turn off your text message notifications during the morning and the evening. And so you could do this with your email notifications or your text message notifications, or turn off your phone altogether during your evening routine to create that separation. But since I've already made the physical separation through a routine of working out, let's say, or going on a walk or taking a 5-minute hot shower, it helps my brain ease into unwinding so that I don't have as much of a desire to be on my phone, since I also recognize my phone as a tool for my business. And the most common tip you'll hear, but there's a reason it's really common, is to sleep with your phone in the other room and get yourself an alarm clock. But you might find that you don't actually need to sleep with your phone in another room if you have deleted all of the apps, if you've exercised that muscle to create that separation. But I do love the idea of an alarm clock. I sleep with my phone in the same room, my personal phone, because I have my alarm clock and I have my phone as the backup alarm because I'm just really scared about sleeping through my alarm. Yeah. But those are all very actionable ways that you could implement a routine that help tie it all together with the boundaries.
Yeah. I really like that, like, physical separation tip. Like you said, it could be anything, but I think that's really important. And I think when you're going to bed at night too, like, by physically separating yourself from your phone, it's humanizing, and it allows you to, like, yes. I think that is a good time to think or read or I don't know, sleep, like things that like your body probably needs. I don't know. Yeah. So I think those are really good tips. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing all that, because I don't feel like I hear enough people talk about that. And I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of listeners, because a lot of listeners are probably like me, very chronically online. So we could all take a page out of your book. Jessica, I want to hear, this is what I ask all my guests at the end of the episodes. I want to hear a crazy story that you have from shooting. It could be anything. It could be from a wedding or a shoot or something that happened to your gear, but just something that is just wild that you were just in shock when it happened to you. Let's hear it.
Okay. I don't have many stories, but I'm so grateful I have this one because it's very extreme. So
I'm so grateful for my crazy story.
Because it makes it interesting. It makes it interesting whenever I need a fun fact. Okay, so I was shooting a wedding with my friend, and we were shooting in New York City at the Beekman Hotel. It was a very iconic, gorgeous wedding venue, very bouge. Ooh. So at the end of the night, they were giving out the party favors, the thank you gifts, whatever. And, usually it's like, I don't even know, like a soap or a cactus.
Or chocolates, or like something.
You go to IKEA or you go to the dollar store or you go on Etsy and you buy like on wholesale.
Yeah.
Okay, but this thing, if you buy it wholesale, I think you're like in jail instantly. So they were passing out as party favors Molly, the drug, the Molly drug, pills.
Molly drug.
And I was so shook because it was so unexpected. And they offered it to us. And I was like, no, thank you. I was too stunned to speak. So it's my most craziest story shooting, is being offered Molly by the your client.
Was it like the actual client that was handing it out, or was it like a coordinator, or who was actually physically handing it out?
It was one of the bridesmaids, like maybe the
Oh.
maid of honor or something like that.
Okay.
But everybody, it made a little bit more sense when I reflected on like the party, you know, the reception, dancing, everybody going crazy.
Right. You're like looking back, you're like, wow, everyone was like really into this party tonight. That makes me wonder about like the venue. Like, I doubt the venue knew that was happening, but like, it's actually crazy that like someone would bring that into a venue, because like that venue could get shut down. Like, very extreme.
The Beekman Hotel. That's like the Plaza Hotel, for example, for those who don't like one of the bougiest venues you can be at. And thank God we're in New York where nobody is driving home or anything. They're just taking Uber, the metro, whatever. But it was just such an very interesting wedding day, but very crazy experience. I had never even seen it before. So I like looked the Molly in her eye.
That's so funny. Well, thank you for sharing. That is absolutely wild. Before we wrap up, can you tell everyone where they can find and follow you on social media?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, wherever. TikTok, hopefully soon. I've been inspired from Cassidy's talk on my podcast. You can follow me at my first and last name, which is Jessica Whitaker. And then you can also find me, you can find Build and Bloom on Facebook groups, my podcast, things like that. So thank you so much for having me on the Oh Shoot podcast. It was so much fun.
Of course. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope everyone listening has an amazing rest of their day.